So this is my first podcast with you, Barry, and we obviously met through Sterling Education because I work for a multi-academy trust, and Sterling has been absolutely transformational for us as a trust.
Yeah.
And we had a chat a few months ago, didn't we? And I could have chatted to you for hours because you just
Likewise.
do such amazing things. So what is it that you do? Explain to our listeners what it is that you do.
Well, I suppose to put it in a nutshell, Kate, I have meetings with teachers who will tell me what their concerns are about their students or what their students have told them are their concerns. And it's different in every school that I go to. What we do is based on what they have told me the concerns are, then agree that I need to address these either by doing a motivational talk to their students, running a workshop, or even talking to them on a one-to-one basis, because, that doesn't happen very often, but I will do it if... No, well, just to take that issue of, how do you get experience, or what if you're up against... What do you do if you're the person applying for a job for the very first time, and other candidates are people with several years' experience? And the way I would address that one, for example, is to say, well, look, first of all, you have got experience along the lines that you expressed. But the other thing is that if they are very experienced people, the chances are that they've been made redundant from another company.
Yeah.
Now, they may have 20, 30 years experience, but what experience is it? If they've got 30 years experience that's out of date and no longer relevant, is that a good thing or something that would hold them back? The young person who's coming in with a completely fresh approach to things, somebody with no preconceptions, is probably the one with the advantage, not the one who's disadvantaged. Someone once said to me many years ago, having 30 years experience is not the same as having 1 year's experience 30 times.
Well, that's I like that.
And that's not me, it's someone who said it to me. But I was bowled over by that comment, and I thought there are a lot of youngsters who need to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely, because they don't, sort of my parents' generation, and even my generation to an extent, you've got a job and you've stayed in that profession. But actually, the youngsters of today, they're going to have 2 or 3 careers at least. It's not just going to be one. And what we're finding in schools is, particularly with the advent of artificial intelligence,
yes,
we're learning alongside them, and actually they're far better at it than we are.
Oh, yes.
No, got a much better idea of how to use it properly than we have. And actually, I think in traditional education, we're struggling with that, because English, maths, reading, that sort of thing is the traditional stuff that we can teach. But things that might be more useful in terms of life skills, we're learning it alongside them.
Well, I'm a classic example of that. I find it astonishing now, looking back over my own career, to think that I actually grew up in an age when there was no such thing as a mobile phone, there was no such thing as a computer, there was no such thing as email. And I've had to learn all that just to keep up to date, and I'm constantly relearning. I sometimes feel that I'm a little bit like a land-based animal that was brought up on the land, but it's now inundated with water, when I've never had to learn to swim before. And meanwhile, there's a younger generation. They are fish and they have gills, and they know a lot more about swimming than I do.
It's almost intuitive. I find, our youngest is only 9. She's got an iPad. She hasn't got a phone. Mummy won't give her a phone. But it's almost intuitive what she goes to do. And I've talked to her about the internet, and obviously growing up, I said there was no internet. She goes, but how did you find stuff out? And I'm like, well, you had to go to the library and get a book out on it. We thought we were absolutely top of the range when at my house we got a desktop computer and in Carter 96 it was like an encyclopedia on it, and you could just see her mind going, she just couldn't compute that is what we had to do, and she's like, well, when you went out, how did you let Gaga and my mum know where you were? And I went, well, I didn't. She didn't know where I was.
The problem was she probably didn't care.
Well, I was thinking it was probably a good idea she didn't know where I was, because she probably have worried like anything.
Or she'd have told you not to do it.
She probably would have done. And I'd have said, okay, Mum, I won't. And I'd have gone out and done it anyway. But just the thought of her going out and she's like, but you always know where I am. And I'm like, I do. I always know where she is. Yeah, and our eldest daughter, we've got this app called Life 360. So I could log onto my phone right now and tell you within 1 metre where she is.
Yeah, yeah.
But my mum, I used to go out in the morning, come back for tea. She had no clue where I was for 10, 12 hours.
No, my mum didn't. The only instruction I got from my mum was, dinner's at 5:30. If you're not back, you get no dinner.
Yeah. Or be back before the street lights come on.
Yeah, but I mean, it's shocking really to think that during my childhood, if something awful had happened to me and the police had come round to my parents and say, well, where was he when this happened? They wouldn't have been able to tell the police where. They had no idea. I might be in the woods, I might be on the canal, I might be anywhere.
Yeah. And that was just the way we did things. But the thought of doing that with my children now fills me with dread.
I know.
Absolute
I
dread.
know you wouldn't do it.
But what we've experienced with our children now in education, and I work in education and I feel passionately about education and how important it is. However, our eldest daughter is going in the Navy next year.
Oh,
and she's in sixth form at the minute. Yeah. And she's getting a lot of pressure to fill out university applications. Yeah. So I just wondered what your thoughts were on university and the big push we've had in this country for all young people to go to university.
Yeah, I have very strong views on that. I think frankly, it's been a bit of a disaster. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with going to university. I went to university, I've got a degree, but things have changed. I mean, when I went to university, when I graduated, I mean, you were a celebrity if you could put BA or BSc after your name, because very few people could. Yeah. That made you stand out from the crowd. But you go to an employer today and say, I've got a degree. The employer is like to say, well, show me someone who hasn't. I mean, it's not a big differentiator anymore.
No.
And I think the other thing that is really tragic is that there are an awful lot of people who for whom there are very, very good opportunities out there in the job market, but they do not need a degree to do it.
No.
In fact, it's a waste of time going to university. I mean, I'll give you an example of that. I did a mock interview in a school in Bristol a while back, and I met a really nice young lad, and he told me that his ambition was to be a landscape gardener. Now, yeah, okay, that's a good idea. So I said, well, what do you think are the next steps you need to take between doing your GCSE and becoming a landscape gardener? And he said, well, I need to go in the sixth form, and I need to get to university, and I need to get a degree. And I thought, who gave you that? I mean, to be a landscape gardener, why do you need a degree? Who has told you that? I didn't ask him that question.
No, probably best not to put
probably
on
best not to. But I did say to him, what have you been told about apprenticeships? The answer was nothing. Nothing at all. Not a single teacher, not a parent had said, look, you don't need to go to university. You get a really good apprenticeship, and you could be a qualified landscape gardener in the same time it takes you to get your A-levels.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you won't have a £50,000 debt behind you when you come out. I mean, it's a no-brainer, but nobody had taken the trouble to tell him.
No.
All the pressure was to go to university, and to me, I thought, that's criminal.
Yeah. I have to say, I'm the same as you. So I've got a degree. I went to get a degree when I was 25. I'm doing a master's now. But I'm really conflicted because actually, unless you need a degree to do your job, I'm like, you need to be really sure. And had I gone at 18, I would have got a degree in something that I'd never used. because I waited and went at 25, I did a business degree, which I've used loads.
Yeah.
And my master's is in business, which again, I use a lot. But my husband, he hasn't got a degree. He's worked his way up through kind of his sector. He's now head of health and safety. He has got a postgraduate level qualification now, but he's done that while he's been at work. They've paid for it, and it's been really relevant to his role. And I feel it's pushing our eldest away from education, keep trying to make her, because they're saying, we know you're going in the Navy, but fill out your UCAS application anyway. And she's like, but the Navy will pay for my degree.
Yes. Well, that's the other thing, and this is much more recent. Go back a few years, and employers didn't actually get involved in degrees, but one of the things that I think is changing things now is that there are a lot of universities that are working in partnership with employers. If you know where to look, and that the universities will usually help you do this anyway, they can put you in touch with the employers who will pay for your degree so that you don't come out with this massive debt.
Yeah.
The employer benefits from doing so because if they've been working alongside you for 3 years, they know you're the sort of person they want.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get that practical on-the-job experience
You
as well.
get the practical on-the-job experience as you go, but of course, what employers are not going to do is to pay for you to get a degree in something stupid like golf course management, and I'm not joking. That there is such a course.
Wow.
So they're going to put their money into things like engineering or building or the areas of the economy where they need people.
Yeah.
And there are now degree apprenticeships.
Yes.
I'm sure you know this anyway, Kate, but there are degree apprenticeships all the way up to master's degree level.
That's incredible, isn't it?
And now that's only come in the last 4 or 5 years, maybe less than that. But so things are moving forward. But I think you're absolutely right. This idea that you cannot succeed unless you go to university. Well, if you want to be a brain surgeon, I mean, that's probably true. But if you want to be a landscape gardener, it's trash.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's absolute nonsense.
And I think we have children at the opposite end of the scale as well. So like I said, our youngest is 9. She wants to be a unicorn artist. Now, I'm sure by the time she's old enough, there will be degrees in how to be a unicorn artist. However, the reality is we are probably looking that she will do a career that hasn't been invented yet. And that throws up a whole other ball game and is really difficult for us in the education sector. So Barry is actually going to come and do some work with us at Net, aren't you? And you're going to do some careers things with us. Yeah. Because actually that's our next big challenge is how we get children ready for careers that aren't available yet. So how we provide them with the skills that they need. So perhaps our next podcast, Barry, could be on that.
Let's go for it. Let's go for the course and the podcast. I've enjoyed it.
It's been wonderful to talk to you, Barry, as always. And if our listeners want another one, we will be doing another one on how we support our primary age children.
Let's do it, Barry. Thank you, Kate. Thanks for having me.